Recognizes Mr. Fallon for 5 minutes.
No, thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate it. General Brown, how are you? Thank you all for coming. I wanted to start real quickly on, I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but just general on a personal level. As an Air Force veteran myself, very proud. I love all 4 branches of the service. I just love the Air Force a little bit more. I was dismayed last year when I believed it was politically driven, that some were alleging that there was a major problem with extremism in the military. I mean, you're always going to have some bad apples, but I took that as an affront because there's a difference between truth and then deliberate fiction. And that's why, I just remember my experience. And the first thing they did when we got on station was, this is a meritocracy. We don't put up, and we have zero tolerance for any kind of bigotry, any kind of discrimination. And we loved that. It's America. And the Air Force and the military have been on the cutting edge. I think in advance and further than our society had gotten. I think have been leading. That was 30 years ago. I don't know, but I suspect it's getting even better. So one of the questions that we asked each branch was, because I want to deal with truth and data, how many folks have been separated in the last fiscal year due to extremist activities? And some of the other branches got us an answer. The Air Force heed and hawed, and they didn't give us an answer, but they finally said, well, we don't track that. So I was just wondering if you track it now, and if you don't, I would respectfully ask if you should, because I just want to deal with truth. So if somebody says that again, I can say, what are you talking about? Of the 330,000 active, it was 4 or 5, and that's not it's an issue. One's too many, but it's not a serious issue. So I just wanted you to comment on that real quickly. Thank you.
I appreciate you asking the question. We'll have to get back to you. I know of a couple, personally, that have been removed from the service based on extremism or extreme activities. But what I will tell you, a good majority of airmen all live up to our core values.
Amen.
And that's exactly what it's all about. And it's the aspect of, we don't want any one of our airmen, or our guardians for that matter, or any other service member to feel like they're being either harassed, discriminated, or live in an environment they can't reach their full potential. And
that's not unit cohesion, and we want them out. We want the bad apples out. I remember an instance, it was more sexism, but they kicked his butt out, within a few weeks after he graduated basically while he was in tech training. So, but if just tracking it, then we can, if some yo-yos here, waste your time with something like that, we can have a ready answer. And if it is an issue, then we'll address it. I just want to move forward. So, General, with recruiting and retention, our office asked on the 13th of April this month what the Air Force recruiting was for, the basic training graduates and, Air Force officers commissioned. And we haven't got an answer yet. So I'd love to have that answer at some point. It's been 2 weeks. But I did notice that FY22 we had 329,000 in strength, and then FY23 planning on 323. So it's a reduction of almost 2%. And when you think about nuclearized Iran, of course, the largest land invasion we've seen in Europe in 70 years, and a resurgent China, what's the rationale and the reasoning behind the reduction?
That in-strength reduction is tied to force structure. Okay. And so one of the things we're doing is actually making sure we're aligning what we're doing from a force structure standpoint with our end strength. So those are tied together.
Okay.
And,
thank you. Secretary Kendall, with pilots, I think we have, it's 12,451, and our strength is 14. We want 14,101, so there's a delta there. What are our plans to remedy that?
Yeah, we're looking at things that increase the efficiency of the pipeline to produce pilots, and we're trying to recruit more and bring them in. We don't have an operational shortage of pilots in flying units. What we have is a shortage of rated people in staff jobs generally, so it's not really affecting readiness that much. But we are making incremental progress. I think the pilot shortfall fell by about 300 this past year. So we're making some progress on that, and we're doing a number of things to address that problem.
Yeah, because I remember my PAS when I was in ROTC telling me in the 70s after Vietnam, they let a bunch of pilots go, and then a couple years later they had a shortage. And then we were seeing that in the early 90s where they were banking pilots and letting folks go, and then what happened? And he predicted it too. He said, you're going to have a shortage, and we did. I just don't want to see that. I want to learn from that history.
We're having some difficulties with recruiting in general, not just pilots right now.
Yeah, and that's why I asked for those I'm worried about that because I'm hearing that from people at Lackland. I'm hearing that from people in some of the bases with the Army as well. General, the RC-135 Rivet Joint Platform, we make that in Greenville, Texas. It's in the district that I currently represent, but won't come January. But I know that we're in an unclassified setting, but I was wondering if you could comment on the contributions to our efforts to support Ukraine and our NATO allies vis-a-vis this platform.
It's not just the RC-135, it's all the other ISR platforms that come together to help provide information not only to ourselves to have a good sense of what's going on, but to support Ukraine in their operations as well. So the RC-135, having been an air component commander a couple of times and having to operate personally for me and the things I have to do as an air component commander, it provides some pretty great capability to give us a good sense of what's going on within whatever environment we're monitoring.
Members' time has expired.
Thank you. Thank you.
The chair recognizes Mr. Waltz for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all for, for sticking with us today. I certainly think the American